How's it going, YouTube? Watching today with another video, and today, guys, what I'm bringing you is my ban list prediction. Now, these types of videos are really fun to make, and it really does give me an opportunity to show off what I think could happen here, because there's so many different ways that you can look at the game, and I feel like that's what makes it so special, right? Is because everyone has so many different opinions on it, and no one really knows who's right, but we can all make just a lot of guesses as to what they're going to do, especially lately since they've been releasing so many cards off the ban list, especially Snow, right? Like, that's a card we never thought we'd see again. It really makes you wonder, like, what other cards on the ban list right now aren't really problematic, because in my opinion, they could literally cut the ban list in half and we'd be fine. There's a lot of cards that are on there that were really broken in its time, but as we got more interactions and more cards, even like kaijus, right? Like, when we saw the Klee Towers come off the ban list, it's like, yeah, we have kaijus, like, right? Like, before we didn't have those. So this is something where you kind of have to think about the cards in today's game state, and that's really what they're testing. So I have a couple cards in here that I really do think could just come off the list. I don't think it's gonna be a problem, but we'll have a conversation about that. So as always, if you have your own opinions, definitely let me know down in the comments below. These are my opinions. They're not, you know, like super set in stone. It's up to Konami and what they're gonna do. These are just the things that I think would make the game a lot healthier at the current moment, because again, I don't really think this is gonna be a gigantic list, but I definitely think that there's some very minimal hits that they could do to just fix the format, and I think it'd be really fun. So without further ado, is hop right into my first pick here off the bans, and I feel like this one has been coming for a long time now, and that's just gonna be Verte. So Verte reminds me a lot of Mermaid. Just any two monsters just going straight into full combo essentially, right? DP alone is just so much pressure on a board. The fact that it just takes so long to out if you don't have things like Shark Cannon or Crow or Bell, and then you also just have like the follow-up, which is like the draws and whatnot. It's really interesting to see a card like this in the game, just because it enables so many different plays, right? And especially when you're just out of all options, you're completely exhausted, and then you're like, Anaconda? And a lot of times that's just good enough to win you the game, right? And so I feel like this is a card that it just doesn't allow for a lot of great future card design either. So I really do feel like it's just something that needs to go. Also, I really feel like if Anaconda gets banned, Scythe and Dagda become way less of a problem, because at that point you're only dealing with the people who have like Sanctum Scythe, or the people who are setting up Scythe and then using like Tornado Dragon, which might happen, but it's not really as common as you'd think. The only deck that's really going to do that is, say, like a Dino or maybe Pendulum. And then you could talk about like even Live Twin that could use like their monster to pop it. But like at the same time, I don't really feel like any of that's super relevant. And if you get rid of the Anaconda, it just makes Scythe really less good. Like, Scythe has been in the game now for years, since Primal Origins, right? And that's been such a long time ago. And it's been like in and out of the game. And a lot of people were like, well, yeah, you can like ban the Dagda and it goes back to normal. Or if you just ban the Scythe, you get rid of the problem. But the only thing that's enabling the problem right now is the fact that you can go Anaconda, get the free pop on your board, and you don't have to worry about like making the pop, right? So you don't have to waste those resources into making a Tornado Dragon. So for me, I think that if you ban Anaconda, it just solves two different problems at one time. And again, these are just very minimal hits that you can do to just fix the game outright. There's not a whole lot that you really need to hit. The next thing up here is going to be Meow Mew. I know that this card has been just enabling so much for the Prank Kid deck, right? And it wasn't really that big of an issue when it was just Prank Kid with one Meow Mew. Even if they had like the Small World Terratop engine for Gossip Shadow, it became a problem when they had the Brave engine, and then it just didn't matter when they normal summoned anymore, right? Because this was supposed to be like you could Ash or Meister their normal summon one time, they were dead. But now it's protected, and it just makes things really tough. So I think that banning the Meow Mew and making the deck find other avenues to get the fusion is just a lot better, for the meta at least. Prank Kid is not like super oppressive, like hand looping and like all the craziness of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like Goki format, right? But like at the same time, their grind game is impeccable. There's almost no way to stop the full combo unless you have like Imperm and Nibiru, because like when they have Fateful and they just normal summon and they can chain block anyway, like the deck itself has just gone out of hand now, and it's just being way overrepresented at like every event. And so I feel like this is something that just needs to get dealt with, because like everyone knows that like when you play against Prank Kid, they're like, wow, they're gonna have everything. And you know, it's just another one of those decks that can just play every engine, and it does happen. But I feel like this is a card in particular that just has to go, because there are other decks out there who have just gotten straight hit, right? Like Spiral lost their master plan, right? For a while, Striker lost Engage. This is like one of those things where I think Prinks just needs to lose Meow Mew because it's like just becoming so prevalent, right? So I think this is a card that just really has to go. But moving on to my last ban here, I would say Deskbot. So I don't feel like Auroradon needs to get banned per se. I would love to see Hulk get banned personally, because I just feel like I am getting annoyed seeing every single tuner in the game just get banned because of Hulk. And so if you just ban the Hulk and you give us back all of our tuners, I feel like there's a lot better lines of play and cooler things that we can do. Just looking at Jet Synchron alone, right? Like that card's insane. So for me, I really would prefer seeing a Hulk ban, but I don't really think that's going to happen. Also with the reprint coming up. So I think that the only way that you really fix the problem of like the Auroradon Turbo decks right now is just banning the Deskbot 1. And then once they go to ban the Hulk, then of course they can unban everything else. But this is just the easiest way to be able to deal with these issues right now, because these decks are, again, just getting out of hand. So this would be my best pick for just trying to hit the base deck without really hitting like a weird engine or something, right? So I think the Deskbot is a fair ban here. Going on to my limits now, and this is what I was talking about with cards that should just come off the ban list, at least to 1, just to see what they would do. I didn't really think that there's many cards in the game right now that really needed to go to 1. I think that if you ban the Anaconda, you can just leave Fusion Destiny alone, because at that point you're just hurting Heroes players, right? Like, unless you do like Fusion Destiny to 1 and like Hero lives to 3, I could see that, but I don't really think that they would do anything less than 2. But my first limit here is going to be Spellbook of Judgment. I think this is a card that's been on the ban list for a while now, and it's just something that really does have the potential to come back into the game, and just make one of their other decks playable again. I think that's really cool, and it's a really nice idea. We do have the problem with like GGYGO being there, and maybe that's something that if you do unlimit this, you can ban that. It's just like if Union Carrier came back, they'd have to ban Buster Whelp again, right? So like maybe that's a compromise, but like there's already the other decks out there too right now, like Fluanderies, that are able to play like the Windbarrier statue, and we've seen the Windbarrier statue become a problem, right? And that's just something too where you kind of have to think about it, like if they're going to allow that, like maybe they'll allow us to do like GGYGO plays with Judgment. I don't really know. I think this is a really cool card that could come back to 1 though, just to see what it would do, right? Like I think that putting Snatch Steal to 1 was a bit more ridiculous than talking about Judgment, and that card got instantly rebanned. So like, who knows? Maybe this is something that could really come back to 1 and we could see it played again. The next one at 1 here, just bring back the Party Boat, man. Like, if you need to ban Hunter, ban Hunter. But, like, there's been so many lists that have gone by, and I feel like this is just one of those cards that everyone's like, it's gonna come back eventually. Like, it's gotta come back. And so this is a card that's just been banned, and it's similar to, like, Stratus, right? How everyone's just kind of like, are you guys gonna put it to 1 yet? Like, can we use it? And, like, it's gonna go to 1, it's gonna go to 2, it's gonna go to 3. And I don't really think it's going to be that big of a problem. Like, if you're that afraid of, like, Hunter loops, then ban Hunter. But I don't think it's going to be that big of a deck either. But it would be cool to see, like, one of the older decks coming back into rotation, honestly. Really cool one, even in its prime, right? Last one here, Blaster. Now, Blaster is the easiest one to be able to just let to 1. Tidal and Redox need to stay banned. Redox for sure, but so Tidal, the other day I was looking at it again, and it's a card that lets you foolish any monster from your deck to the grave. And what's crazy about that is if you send a water with it, and then you can send like the water enchantress with Tidal and then foolish anything. Could you imagine? That'd be nuts. So definitely leave those banned, but I think Blaster is the easiest one just to say, okay, you can come back. Like, okay, Salad uses it, who really cares, you know? Like, it'll have its own way of uses, I'm sure, but at least right now, I don't really think that Blaster's a problem. It could go to 1 with Tempest, that's fine. Moving on to my 2 loves, though, here. The first one here is going to be Right. So, we've seen engines get hit right away pretty quick. The Brave engine is just literally everywhere right now. It's in every single deck. And while we're talking about 2 Right, 2 Water Enchantress, of course, it's just like the slight nerf like they did with Fusion Destiny and they did with Not Your Servant. This is just something where you just reduce the consistency a little bit. You don't really need to do a whole lot to it, but just putting them 2 and 2, I think that's fair. These are fine at 2. Again, just a slight consistency hit. It's not going to do a whole lot to it, but it'll help out a little bit. For cards, they can go to 3. I would definitely say Seconds Late to 3. I think this card is fine. I really do love this card. I think that it's just really cool to have something in the game that's just like, hey, I'm going to trade out using all my spells and traps, but I want to draw cards. And so I think that's really neat too. Because that's a deck that wouldn't even use like the Brave Engine or what have you, right? And then they came out with the new Orbital cards. So maybe this is a really good opportunity for them to bring back Seconds Late and let us just mess around with that a little bit more. Maybe be able to play some more Orbital BA with Snow and Destrudo. I think that'd be a really fun time personally. Don't know if this would actually happen, but this is another card where I'm like, why is this card still on the ban list, right? Like Block Dragon is not a card anymore. So I think that it's fine, but who knows? The next card, Spiral Resort, kind of the same theme, same thing. It's like, you ban Master Plan, man. Like, just bring back the Resort. No one really would care, I don't think. It's one of those things where, like, the deck was really crazy when it had the ability to go Master Plan over and over. But, like, now that it doesn't, like, it just turns into a more, like, mid-rangey, more control-y deck with, like, utility wired and whatnot. So I think this is fine. I think this is perfectly fine. Putting this to 3, I don't think anyone would have a big complaint about that. And then last but not least, Stalio. I don't think anyone would care about Stalio 3. That's perfectly fine. Salad really isn't doing anything either. So, like, they also just want to go their access code play too. So, I really don't feel like the Mirage Stalio at 3 would be a big issue. But again, these are my picks, not yours. So, definitely let me know what yours are. And I'm interested to hear because there's a lot of really interesting things to talk about here. Because there's so many different cards out there that just like either deserve the hit or will get the hit, right? So this is just one of those things where I really wanted to post my own opinion to this, and I hope that you enjoyed because this is something that I really enjoy doing. The banlist season is something that gets everyone really excited to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And really excited to kind of think in theory. So I hope that you did enjoy this, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.